The permanent vacation. Lifestyle activism within the vegan movement. It's a big deal. I've been talking about it for years. Many of you people watching this video now first discovered my channel because of my critique of the permanent vacation and lifestyle activism. Many of my supporters on Patreon. That's how you got to know me. It's a big issue. It's an enduring issue. It hasn't disappeared. It still matters. Why does it matter? Why do people like myself talk about it instead of just ignoring it? Because let's face it, the majority of the time, whether it's on a big channel or a small channel, we do ignore it. And you know what? Let's keep it all the way real. Even on a human face-to-face level, me cooperating with and interacting with people, I do tend to ignore it. You guys know I did one podcast with Jason Pizzino. In some ways, I've said this in other videos, I think Jason Pizzino, in some ways, he was representing the worst aspects of the permanent vacation lifestyle. And he could laugh about it with me. He's a self-conscious enough guy, self-critical enough guy. But I didn't try to shut him down. I didn't refuse to talk to him. I didn't say, no, I'm too good to hang with you. Because I'm a critic of the permanent vacation lifestyle. I set it aside. I said, okay, let's see what we have in common. Let's see what we can work on. Because look, guys, if what you have in common with somebody is that you want to save the world, save the animals, promote ecology, the vegan diet, etc., that is something so fundamental and so important and so meaningful for two people to have in common that you should put aside those other things, those other considerations. You should put aside, the fact that maybe you don't both feel that filming yourself at the beach is the most effective form of activism, but you should be able to put it aside. And certainly with someone like Henya also, I did try to put aside those differences. I tried to be friends with Henya to keep things simple. It didn't work out. Pretty sure Henya hates my guts by now. That's all right. Win some, lose some. Point is, the permanent vacation, okay, why is it a problem? Why do people like myself criticize this at all as opposed to just ignoring it, given that there are so many videos and so many channels devoted to this approach to veganism that we have to be ignoring? We have to be ignoring on a daily basis, and sometimes even when trying to make a friend, you set it aside and ignore it also. I think there were 4 headings. Let's talk about just 3 of them in this video. Number 1 is the impact on the individual person's life, which is no joke. Right? People who adopt this lifestyle, this paradigm, some of them drop out of university to do it. Some of them drop out of high school to do it. And some of them encourage others to drop out of university and drop out of high school to do it. Okay? It's a big deal. Those are decisions that have tremendous long-term consequences. So one pretty sympathetic conversation I had, you guys can look it up on my channel, was posted relatively recently. I had this conversation with a young woman in Chiang Mai who dropped out of high school and joined the circus. She dropped out of high school to go and live in Chiang Mai and live that high-fruit, raw tofu lifestyle for the sake of her health, and also I think because of the philosophy, the social philosophy of what was attached to that. She's not the most extreme example, but she lost faith in that project, and she had that interview with me. So her name is Leah Pramstaller, and also that video discusses the fact that she gained a ton of weight. Not everyone does, but she gained a ton of weight eating so many mangoes per day. So look, when I talk about, this is point 1 on my list here, the impact on an individual person's life, it's not trivial. All right? Quitting your job is not trivial. Dropping out of university is not trivial. Dropping out of high school is not trivial. Someone else who dropped out of high school, not even college, is Tess Begg. Okay, I guess I'll probably come back to her example. If you haven't heard of her, Tess, T-E-S-S-B-E-G-G, Tess Begg, first name, last name. Plenty of people have it. If you haven't heard of her and you go to her channel, you're probably going to be shocked by how many followers she's got, how many viewers she's got. When I look at her channel right now, no shade, out of the, several of the videos are just showing pictures of food, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I'm seeing 10 images of her where she is wearing either white underwear or a white bikini, in a white bikini in the shower, in a white bikini getting out of the swimming pool. Some of them I can't tell if it's a bikini or bathing, and others bathing suit of different colors and workout clothes, very revealing. So Tess Begg dropped out of high school to play that game. Okay? And some people would say she's very successful. Some of these videos have 50,000 viewers, etc., etc. Choice is still not trivial. It's still significant. It's still incredibly meaningful short-term and long-term. And you got to think of, what if she was your sister? What if she was your cousin? What if she was your daughter? Right? I'm digressing. I'm digressing to my main point here. But, I have a million brothers and sisters. I have one child. I'm divorced, but I do have a daughter. I do think about these things. When I say impact an individual person's life, I'm not joking. I'm not being cynical. It's not just a ploy to get views, like I want to say something outrageous about Tess Begg. And also, it's interesting. Some people misinterpret what I'm saying 180 degrees here. Like when I raise this as if I'm saying physical beauty is the only thing that matters. If you know someone who is a brilliant, talented, hardworking musician, and they have a contract with a recording company, still they have to think about what they're doing long-term, next 50 years of their life. Of musicians, the majority who have a contract, who record an album, who have a contract and an album, the majority of them, they will have a career that only lasts 2 or 3 years. The majority of successful musicians, the majority of signed musicians, the majority of musicians who get a song on the radio, this is a considerable level of success. They don't have a 20-year career. They maybe have a 2-year career, right? And we're already dealing with a tiny, tiny minority. Of women who sign contracts with a modeling firm, a tiny minority have a successful career. Almost nobody has a 20-year career, right? You can have, in modeling, you can have a successful career the last 2 years. So again, whether you're talking about recording music or modeling, you talk to someone who's a bureaucrat in one of those agencies, someone who's an agent or a manager, and ask them, can you calculate what percentage of people who are signed, what percentage of people who sign a contract have a successful career, and then what percentage of them have a career that lasts more than 2 years? It's a tiny, tiny percentage, right? Now, I don't know why some people hear this kind of thing. I'm expressing concern. I'm expressing concern for the individual people. I'm expressing concern for the future of the movement, veganism, right? My point is not, you're too ugly to be a model or you're not talented enough to be a musician. It's not my point. My point is, dropping out of high school or dropping out of university to become a musician or to become a model is a really bad choice, even if you're extremely talented as a musician, even if you're extremely gorgeous as a model, even if you have signed a contract as a musician or as a model, right? Among the most successful people in those fields, the most successful, still the majority have only got 2 or 3 years in the game, and then what? Right? So coming back to Henya, look, for some people, for a tiny minority of people, YouTube, social media goes from being a hobby to being a profession, to paying your bills, or it might be your career. For a lot of those people, after a couple of years, it goes back from being your career to being your hobby. So we've seen Henya rise and fall in terms of the number of viewers. She used to get more than 30,000 views per video. I now see her getting only 6,000 views per video, and I've seen her in her videos directly talking about her anxiety that her income from YouTube has fallen. Not that surprising. How long do you think it was going to last? Even for people who sing and who sing the hell out of a song, who have a hit song, who have a top 10 song, a lot of people are one-hit wonders. A lot of people have a career as a recording artist that only lasts for 1 year. So if you do what we do, here on YouTube, here on social media, you just talk about your life, do you really think you can achieve that kind of peak fame for 20 years for your career? In the whole world, maybe a couple of people do it. I mean, I don't even know if 20 years, have we really had this kind of social media for 20 years? I don't know if we can have an example of that. But again, Henya may be the single most successful YouTube personality in veganism. She may be. Like, if you make a top 10 list, I think she's on there for the last decade. I think she is one of the most successful people. But success is fleeting. And again, success is fleeting even if you sign a contract as a model or as a musician. And we people like Tess Begg, they ain't got no contract. They ain't got no modeling agency, right? Now, again, I have asked the question with people like Nina and Aranda. I've asked the question whether or not they could. I think it's also worth asking as a thought experiment. Do you think Nina and Aranda really could be successful as musicians or as models? And my opinion on them is no. My opinion doesn't matter. The reality is they have not succeeded. The reality is they're 23 years old. They're not teenagers. They're adults. And they're significant voices in veganism. And I want to criticize them. One, because I think their content is garbage. I think they're idiots. I think they're a bad influence on the movement. But also fundamentally, guys, they did an advertisement for Taco Bell, which raises ethical issues. There are reasons to talk about what they're doing. Now, again, some people got this 180 degrees the wrong way around, And their understanding of the point I've just made to you was being good looking is really important. Well, if you're signing a modeling contract, it probably is. But that's not actually my point here, people. I think I've just explained to you clearly enough that, I mean, we're now into an era of self-made celebrity, self-made stardom, right? It doesn't matter whether or not Tess Begg is good looking enough to sign a modeling contract. Even if she did, I would still express this kind of concern. You know, on a human individual level, what about your long-term future? What about 2 or 3 years from now? Even someone as successful as Henya, what about your long-term future? What about your future 2 or 3 years from now, right? Whether you make a comparison to modeling or music or anything else, fame is fleeting even at the top. And don't kid yourself. We're talking about micro fame within the vegan demimonde. We're way down on the bottom. We're talking about people making $500 a month out of YouTube. And I know you may feel famous. If you're a young kid and you're in high school or you're struggling with university, you make those $500 a month, you feel lit. You think, I can do this. You think, I can grow this channel. I can make it go from 500 to 5,000. I can start paying my rent. This can be my career. I understand the excitement. I understand the enthusiasm. It's not my role to gas you up, kid. It's my role to say to you, think about 10 years in the future, think about 20 years in the future, think about long-term future. And look, so point 2, that was only point 1 here, is the impact on your life as an individual. Honestly, where do you think we're going to be 10 years from now? Do you think Henya is going to look back and say this had a really positive impact on her life? I think probably a lot of people. I've seen so many people drop out and quit the game already. Jalicious Journey already dropped out, quit the game. I just saw a comment from her from years ago, it reminded me of her existence, and I go and look at her channel. It hasn't been updated for months. Tons of people quit the game from all levels. There are people who are strictly political. There are people who are strictly bikini models. There's people from all different walks of life who get involved, play this game for a while, and quit. How do you think they look back on it? Now, I'm in this super long term. Right now, I've got a court case with Durian Rider, so what we've had almost 6 months of litigation. I don't know when maybe it's only been 4 months of litigation. Feels that the court case has been going on forever. Short term, it's a drag. But I'm thinking, where does this put me 10 years from now? I want to roll heavy in the vegan movement till the day I die. I want to be here when I'm 65. I want you guys to all look back on this and laugh. Hope we can laugh together. Hope you guys still know me when I'm 65. And when you watch YouTube videos by pressing a button on your watch, whatever state this technology has evolved to by then, right? So, my point is here not to condemn the whole enterprise. But sure, the stakes are high. People are. I mean, there was Joe Vegan. He admitted back in the day, back when he was a true believer in Durian Rider and Freely, so before Joe Vegan got famous here on YouTube, he quit his job. He quit his job to go to Thailand and join the circus, just to go and worship Durian Rider and Freely, just to go attend the fruit festival there. Again, I interviewed that other young woman who dropped out of high school to do it. People are making those kinds of decisions that have a deep impact on their life. And now look, jumping back to my main point here. This is all my main point. It's one long main point, people. I think it was 2 years ago that I sent an email to Happy Healthy 96, whose real name is Stephanie Yu. I sent an email to Stephanie Yu because Stephanie Yu was at that moment making the decision to drop out of university. And she had a video about it on YouTube. She's saying, well, I'm going to drop out of university so that she can be happy and healthy. Come to find out, this week I found out she ain't happy. She ain't healthy. She's basically had a public breakdown that her whole fucking life on social media is a lie. Her life based on projecting this image of a happy, healthy vegan lifestyle. She ain't happy. She ain't healthy. She dropped out of university for what? She dropped out of university to do a bunch of Joe jobs in Australia and possibly Thailand. I never heard of her having a job in Thailand. I assume she was spending her parents' money during that time. No shade, but I've never seen anything from her explaining how she earns money. But she has said to me that she had some kind of low-level job. So I don't know. I don't know if she worked in a convenience store or what. I do not know. When all you got is a high school diploma and an airplane ticket to Australia, I don't know what kind of job you can get. You can't get a job in Thailand. Having the legal right to work in Thailand is not easy. I've been through that. I've done the paperwork to have the legal right to work in Thailand. I have real life experience, job experience, that stuff. So look, Stephanie Yu, Happy Healthy 96, how do you think she's going to look back on this role of veganism? And sorry, now jumping in, point 4 here, this stuff is not anodyne. It's not harmless. It has real impacts for these people as individuals, and then it has real impacts on others who imitate them, who emulate them. If we were keeping it all the way real, who do you think influenced Steph Yu to try that? I'm sure on some level, even if she's not aware of it, I'm absolutely certain Steph Yu, of course she was influenced by Freely. I think she was influenced by Henya Mania. I'm sure she looked at Henya, and Henya was then at the peak of her fame, and she thought, I can do this. Maybe she thought, I can do this better. Probably true. Probably Steph Yu can do a better job than Henya Mania at that same gig. And again, now today, look at any of them. You can even look at Freely. I mean, Freely's got enough money to get by, but all of them had miserable fucking lives. So look at the outcomes now from Steph Yu, from Freely, but from Henya even. When, her fame comes and goes, and now what? It's not a career. And again, here we're still just talking about the individuals. We're still not even talking about the movement, right? Social media is not an alternative to having a real career. It can be an adjunct to having a real career, right? But my next point is social media is not an alternative to real political activism. It has to be an adjunct to real political activism, right? And people are promoting this. It's exactly 100 degrees opposite is the myth being spun here, okay? So look, impact on the movement. In a sense, all my videos are about this. In a sense, I feel like I've already said enough and just alluding forward to the fact that I'm not just concerned. I've just talked about concerned about the individual person, their career, their life, etc. But also I've got to be concerned about veganism as such. What is the impact on veganism that so-called lifestyle activism has? And I've got to be concerned. My heading number 3 is the impact that one individual has on another. The fact that maybe Stephanie Yu was, in a sense, imitating or emulating Henya. And it's very easy, of course, on the internet. For one thing, it's very easy to only speak to people who agree with you, to speak within an echo chamber where no one's challenging your point of view or your opinions. If you want to see something really shocking, look at any of Ted Carr's worst videos, and then look at the thumbs up, thumbs down ratio. Obviously, people who would disagree with or people who would challenge his lunacy, they just don't watch the videos. They ignore it, which is natural. But then you get this self-reinforcing pattern, right? So people do get influenced by this, and the movement gets influenced, and the perception of the movement gets influenced. And as I said at the beginning of this, in many ways, right now, we're in an ongoing debate or ongoing struggle for the soul of veganism to decide the future of the movement. I wrote a message this morning before I went to class to a young vegan on YouTube. Her channel is called Positively Vegan. She is, I believe, 14 years old. She is on YouTube, and she mentions that her parents, control her content. I assume they vet it or whatever. I don't know what the process is, but of course that's very good. I think if you're 14 years old, your parents should be involved. Or some guardian, some older person should be helping you manage your social media if you're going to use social media at that age. So she's 14 years old, and she put up a video that somewhat vaguely says that she is frustrated, as many young people are with school. And again, the stakes are pretty high here. I've just mentioned a whole bunch of examples of people who actually dropped out of high school or actually dropped out of university to pursue this noxious mix of social media glitz and, self-styled activism, right? I mean, that's what it is. It's putting on a bikini in lieu of a revolution. But, as all the pretensions of revolutionary left-wing politics wrapped up in a bikini and sold to you as part of a beach vacation. Can you imagine why this is so popular? Can you imagine why this is so influential? All right. In the video, she doesn't really spell out that she wants to get involved with that kind of lifestyle activism. She somewhat vaguely says that she's frustrated, that she's trapped in school, studying things she's not interested in, and that really what she wants to be doing is traveling around the world and going to these vegan meetups that she sees on social media. So I don't want to put words into her mouth, but my concern is that sounds a lot like exactly what Stephanie Yu said, I think about 2 years ago, when she was first justifying her decision to drop out of college. And when I wrote to her, and I got a reply too, neither she nor I had very big YouTube channels at that time, saying, look, I really think you're making the wrong decision. And this reply to this 14-year-old, just again expressing some of the same concerns, I think you're going to see exactly why I express this. And it's all of these concerns. Concerns about the individual, concerns about influence, concerns about the movement, etc. So I say hi pause. That's my abbreviation of Positively Vegan as their screen name, so just say hi pause. Hi pause. Feel free to share this message with your parents. Maybe they'll read it anyway. Like, I don't know, maybe your parents actually, log in and read the comments. But I do open by saying, look, I'm happy. If this message reaches her parents, I'm just as happy as if it reaches her, because it serves the same purpose. Feel free to share this message with your parents. Maybe they'll read it anyway. The reality is that the road to making a difference in veganism or any political movement is not via social media. Maybe your parents could help you find examples of people who have actually had influential careers linked to ecology and animal rights or veganism sensu stricto. They have very little resemblance to the people you allude to seeing on social media, the people whom you'd like to emulate. Okay, so just pause there. This is so true, but very, very few people will see it. It's not easy to find. There are examples of people who actually have careers, whether as lawyers or advocates, some kind of political career involved with animal rights, ecology, what have you. Some of them have a stutter. Some of them have a poor stage presence. Some of them would never have a YouTube channel just for that reason. Like, if they can't speak in a confident way on camera. Some of them are fat. Some of them are ugly. Plenty of them are. There's nothing wrong with that. Ugly vegans represent, Some of them are shy. Some of them come out of an academic background. Some of them have no academic background. You can find examples of people who had careers of that kind that are really influential and successful who actually didn't have any formal education related. Maybe they were a carpenter or something before. It is interesting. But it's not easy to find. I mean, that's why I say maybe her parents could show her some examples of what people are like who have a career linked to this form of activism. Because again, one of the things I'm emphasizing is the difference between short-term fame and a career. Although your video doesn't really explain to me what your vision of your own future might be. And I don't want to assume, for example, that you think you can emulate Henyamania, but perhaps it is some specific role model of this kind that you have in mind. You just briefly say that you want to travel around the world going to meetups. But the reality is that when you attend these meetups, you'll have nothing to offer. By contrast, a medical doctor or a lawyer might have a lot to offer. You can have expertise in a totally unrelated field and still be respected in the movement. You can also just do honest work that earns the respect of your peers in almost any field, but respect is earned. And the bottom line is that someone who is a doctor or a linguist or a successful small business owner is in a massively advantageous position relative to a teenager on social media. Okay? So again, look, the movement is the movement is the movement. And some of you guys have had this experience. You show up to a meetup of vegan activists, of people aspiring to do vegan activism, aspiring to organize something to make something happen. If you show up and you just say, hey, I'm not from around here. I don't live here. I don't have any connections to local government. I don't have any local knowledge of what's going on. But I have pretty pictures of myself on Instagram. I'm a young, attractive person on social media. People may be nice to you, but it's really a dead end. You really have nothing to offer the movement. Whether you're going to meet up in London, England, or in Athens, Greece, or in Thailand. You say, yeah, I just got off the plane. I'm living this lifestyle like Henyamania, where I just fly around the world. I don't put down any roots. I don't get any involvement with City Hall or Parliament or with a political foundation. I just get off the airplane and then I come to this meetup and I eat strawberries with you guys, or I drink mango smoothies with you guys, and then I go. In a very real sense, you have nothing to offer. Yes, people will be nice to you. I mean, people will chat with you. Maybe they'll go out and dance with you. Maybe they'll go out partying with you. Okay? But in terms of the movement, somebody doing that is at such a steep disadvantage to someone who shows up and says, yeah, I'm a medical doctor. I'm a vegan and I'm a medical doctor. And now, if the medical doctor just got off the airplane, okay, he has some disadvantage. I'm a medical doctor, and for years I've been involved with lobbying City Hall. I've been involved with lobbying the school board for education. Because, I've been objected. The school board keeps teaching kids that eating chicken eggs is good for their health. I'm a medical doctor. I have 5 years experience taking the fight to the school board, trying to get the standards changed in public education so that we stop teaching kids lies about, the conditions animals live in, the health value, nutritional value of eggs, dairy, etc. Wow. That guy has a lot to talk. That guy or that woman could be a female doctor, whatever. Wow. So yeah, it's a meetup. And what you see on social media, what you see on YouTube may give you the sense that all you need to do is buy an airplane ticket and go to that meetup. And things are solved for you and things improve for the movement and wonderful things happen. And it's just not true. When you show up at that meetup, in a sense, you have to make an argument explaining why you have anything to offer to the movement. If you have a lot to offer, you can take on a leadership role. If you have a little bit to offer, maybe you fit in somewhere in between. Maybe what you have to offer is just time, by the way, because a medical doctor will not have a lot of free time. That medical doctor may want younger people to volunteer to help him with that stuff because he's so busy running his medical practice, blah, blah, blah. Sure. Sometimes the puzzle pieces can fit together and the whole is much better. The whole is much bigger than each of the pieces individually. No doubt. It's part of the beauty of organizing political activism. Okay? But the movement is the movement is the movement. If you show up in the meetup and you have nothing to offer but a pretty face and an Instagram profile with 10,000 followers, you got nothing to offer. Even though plenty of people will be flattering towards you. I mean, the main thing I see happening at those meetups, some of which you can see on camera, like on YouTube, and some of which, you can see in real life, are a bunch of burnt out loser hippies making excuses for each other for why they have no ambition, why they have no accomplishment, why they've wasted the last 5 years of their lives, sometimes the last 15 years of their lives, just trying to stoke up each other's egos, right? There's a lot of that going on. Actually, that was one of the things I warned Stephanie Yu about. I said to Stephanie Yu, look, one of the problems is with your plan, because she didn't just drop out of university, she dropped out of university to join the circus over in Thailand. I said, look, and this is this raw fruitarian, raw tofu, demi-monde in Thailand. I said, look, one of the problems is you're going to a community where nobody is going to challenge you on these decisions you make. Because she just made a terrible decision. And I hope she's smart enough to regret it now. I hope she is. But, at least she's still young enough to regret it. Maybe she can still go back to school. Maybe she can still have a real career or something. But the problem is you're going to go into this demi-monde, into this small circle of people who are in the tiny minority of people who are going to reinforce all of your delusions of grandeur. I didn't stutter, but let me restate that in case you couldn't hear me clearly. You're moving into a demi-monde of people who are going to reinforce your delusions of grandeur. Now, that can happen just on the internet where people stay at their own desk. Tons of people broadcasting. They get a little social circle of people who do nothing but flatter them, nothing but praise them, nothing but reinforce their sense that what they're doing is right and good and effective as effective activism. And, in a sense, the underlying tragedy of their lives can get worse and worse and worse until it hits a breaking point. I think that's just what happened with Stephanie Yu. She kept the name of her channel is Happy Healthy 96. How long do you maintain that illusion that everything's fine, that everything's great, until you hit a breaking point and you say, hey, this is a disaster. Hey, I'm checking into the hospital. Hey, actually, my health is terrible. Actually, I'm not happy with my life. Right now, me, I keep it all the way real. You guys know all the time how miserable I am. You know what's up in my life, good, bad, and different, right? But most of these people are not playing by those rules. And I can even say that of Henya's in the middle. She's pretty honest. With Henya, she get a little bit of an illusion that things are fine, and then periodically she gives you a video where she's really letting you know, one, she's had a lot of health problems, that she's not healthy, that she's not happy, that she has a lot of things that are wrong in her life. But now, when that brief period of fame fades and the money starts to dry up from YouTube, you got to think about the difference between micro fame and a lifelong career. Because my commitment to veganism is lifelong. What I can actually do comes and goes, right? But anyway, I'm thinking long term. And if there's one thing, in contrast to Ted Carr, in contrast to all the other people encouraging you to indulge in short-term thinking, if there's one thing I want to deliver to you, I want people to think long term. Whether I'm talking to this 14-year-old or whether I'm talking to some of my fans who are 55 years old, we all got to think long term. Right. Okay, so Okay, respect is earned. The bottom line is someone who is a doctor or a linguist or even a successful small business owner is massively advantageous relative to a teenager on social media. I guess I should just mention small business owner. What if somebody owns a vegan restaurant? What if someone owns a vegan food truck? What if someone owns a vegan pancake stand, a vegan hot dog stand? I always say the food services, it's kind of the most ubiquitous and most easily ignored form of vegan activism. Obviously, you're doing something that gives you a basis to really, engage in real activism where you're really valued in that community. If you can really form a vegan community, maybe it is a real community that, this kind of social media career does not give you ever, right? It also gives you roots, in a real place in bricks and mortar, right? Okay, the teenagers on social media may be the easiest part of the movement to see, and thus the easiest thing for you to emulate. But they're generally a bunch of losers. I've been to those cafes in Thailand, and I've seen it for myself, period. So actually, just to pause on it, that's a meaningful point. The teenagers in bikinis on social media are the easiest thing to see, easiest thing to emulate. But again, in contrast to the medical doctor or the small business owner or the restaurant owner or any, again, you can even go to, I'm not a big fan of what's going on in academic animal rights. Go to an academic animal rights conference at a university. You're going to see a whole different side of things that's not popping on Instagram. But it's a lot realer and a lot deeper, and you're going to meet some people with decades and decades of experience with the pursuit of social change under this heading, right? But you don't see the guy washing dishes in the back of the vegan restaurant. If you're starting a small restaurant, you do your own dishes, man. Before you got enough money to hire a dishwasher, I think there were a lot of people sincerely motivated to save the planet, save the animals, all that stuff, who are tonight washing dishes. I think some people are listening to this video on YouTube while they're washing the dishes in the back of their small vegan restaurant. But that's not what you're going to see on social media. What you're seeing is the glittering facade of Tess Begg, high school dropout, Stephanie Yu, college dropout, Henya Mania. I don't even know Henya Mania's education. I don't know if she went to university. I don't know that. But Henya Mania, someone who has no career aside from social media, someone who I think is going to have to look at getting a real job pretty soon. No shade. I, too, have to look at getting a real job pretty soon. You guys are going to see that on my channel. You're going to see exactly how that changes my life. So the people who are making a real difference, the people who are 14-year-olds, who this letter is to, a 14-year-old and her parents. I hope her parents read it. The people who are 14-year-olds should really learn from and should really emulate are the people who are not on camera in their bikinis. But they're not so easy to find. Those positive examples, right? Okay. Those people are not successful. Those people who you will literally meet in the cafe in Chiang Mai, Thailand. You know who I'm talking about. Some of you know, some of you don't know. But anyway, those people are not successful, and they do not present a career path for you personally, nor a viable future for the movement in general. They're a bunch of losers helping each other in making excuses for their own lack of ambition. Harsh, but you know I mean it. The vision you have is not an alternative to the long, hard road of ambition and accomplishment. Not even if, for example, you want to become a local police officer, something that does not require too many years of education, but would make you respected in your own community, and in fact, would give you a sort of status or respect even within the vegan movement. Pause. Again, it's a great example. It's a young woman who's 14 years old. If she becomes a police officer, especially she would be a vegan female police officer. When she shows up at the meetup, when she starts to organize vegan activism, whatever it is, lobbying City Hall, lobbying the Education Board, or just supporting a new restaurant, trying to start up food services, or trying to get vegan meals as an option for prisoners in jail, or hey, let's make the whole prison vegan. Actually, if you became a police officer, you might have a really interesting path ahead of you. And you can still go on vacation. You can be a police officer, and once a year or twice a year, you can fly to Thailand. I don't care. You go to a meetup in Thailand. You're on a whole different footing then. And people are going to talk to you differently. People are going to listen to you differently too. And you would really have something to offer. Even a police officer, something that is not related to veganism in any way, the way being a medical doctor would be. Right? When you show up at the meetups around the world that you're imagining, what do you have to offer? I say this as someone who is aware that he has very little to offer. If I show up at a vegan event or at a Green Party event, etc., I have to make the case that my voice matters. And you will have to make the case also at age 18, at age 28, or age 38. The struggle never ends. Okay. That's the end of my message as 14-year-old. Social media is not an alternative to having a real career. Social media is not an alternative to real political activism, real organization, etc. It can be an adjunct to it, right? And that's not false humility when I say I've got relatively little to offer. Right now, I'm still in court for my divorce. If that goes really well, soon I may be spending several months of the year with my daughter. And then all my time and energy is going to go into playing with my daughter, right? Just keeping it real. I may still be able to come on YouTube, but like my capacity to be involved with vegan activism is already limited. If I'm spending more time with my daughter, I'm spending less time thinking about vegan activism. I've got a full-time job coming up. You guys are going to get to see how my life changes when I start that. And, the type of activism I can do, partly because of my connection to my daughter, I wrote a children's storybook. I wrote it in both English and Chinese. It's a storybook about veganism or promoting a vegan agenda, but it's for children. It's presenting the core concepts of veganism in a way children can relate to. I wrote it in Chinese. I translated the Chinese into English. Other people have already translated it into Russian, German, and Swedish, so there may be a move on to translate into even more languages. I'd love to get that storybook published, at least in Chinese and English, with beautiful illustrations. To me, that's a form of activism, and it's also a book I can show my own daughter and can be meaningful in my own life. It can be meaningful in your life if you've got kids too, to all you guys out there. Beautiful form of activism, but it is this small-scale stuff. I don't have a lot to offer. I can go to a meetup and meet other vegans and say that. Back when I did, the last time I talked to people in the Green Party, I just rolled up on them saying, look, I have a background in political science. There's a lot of useful advice I can give you. You want to talk to me. I had no money. I have no time. I was busy as hell. Back then I was involved with First Nations politics, so Cree, Ojibwe, etc. Native peoples of Canada politics. I really had so little to offer the Green Party, but I did manage to, based mostly on my background, my past experience, I managed to convince them, yeah, you know what, I got something important to say. So look, as a major footnote here, this is just a footnote, but I want to say I have many, many videos on this channel complaining, very sincerely complaining about how terrible my own experience at university is. My experience with higher education is not positive. My high school was terrible. My university was worse. My experience with higher education in Canada, I'm Canadian originally, absolutely terrible. I think there are many, many good reasons to drop out of university. And I've been tempted by them myself. But to simplify slightly, it's very different to drop out of university because you want to do something, as opposed to dropping out of university because you want to do anything, or to drop out of university because you want to do nothing. And maybe nobody in your life is going to be as honest with you as I've just been. Whether it was, I was that honest with Stephanie Yu when she made the decision to drop out of university. If she talked to me, I would be that honest with Tess Begg about her decision to drop out of high school. I mean, God, my heart goes out to her parents. I don't know what the fuck her parents are thinking. Because, her parents have got to look at that same YouTube page with her in her underwear and in a white bikini and in the shower and stuff and think, what the hell did our daughter drop out of high school for? Right? If my kid dropped out of high school and their YouTube page was all respectable academic lectures on veganism, I still wouldn't be happy. If my kid dropped out of high school and their YouTube page is all recipe videos and cooking, I still wouldn't be happy. I'd say this is a disaster, whether or not you're, exploiting your sexuality this way, whether or not it's about your body being the way you earn your living. But something I've said before on this channel, and I'll say it again, and I'm saying this with sincere concern for the individual people involved as well as for the future of the movement. There's a difference between becoming a stripper so you can pay your way through college and dropping out of college to become a stripper. What these people are glorifying as lifestyle activism, as the permanent vacation, it's not using your beauty and youth and vitality, not using your talent as a singer or what have you, to progress in your own education, to progress towards a career. It's not like a stripper paying her way through college. It really is equivalent to dropping out of college in order to become a stripper. And I got to tell you, at least strippers make pretty good money. What most of these people are doing, short-term and long-term, I think you're looking at a disaster. As I said, 30 minutes ago now, this video's been going on for a while. Please keep in mind, even the most talented people with an obvious, verifiable talent, like playing music, a musician who has a contract, a model who has a contract, those people can maybe only be looking at a career lasting 2 or 3 years. So you should be terrified. If you don't have a contract, you don't have that kind of obvious skill. Claire Michelle is another one. Dropped out of school, right? Dropped out of school for what? Did you drop out of school to do something? Or did you drop out of school to do anything? Like whatever you have to do to survive? Or did you drop out of school for nothing? If my kid dropped out of school to join the army, totally different. Totally different from dropping out of school to go to Chiang Mai and hang around in a cafe with a bunch of losers. And I know there are idiots who are going to misrepresent what I've just said, as if what I'm saying is that beauty is the only thing that matters, or as if this is a criticism of other vegans for not being good looking enough. And it's a funny irony, because really the substance of my advice, what I'm saying, is at the opposite extreme. So look, what I'm going to mention last here, I do think there's another important issue that's sometimes treated in a very shallow and catty and left-wing way, which is the question of colonialism, legacy of colonialism, and the issue, sometimes people say cultural appropriation. There's the question of the jarring contrast between the permanent vacation happening in Thailand, where currently there's a military dictatorship. There are all these extreme political problems. Of course, there's also, poverty. The poor you will have with you always, as it says in the Bible. There are all kinds of serious social problems. Right now in northern Myanmar, we've got a civil war, a hot civil war. In case you didn't know, including aerial bombardment, real body counts, real cities being reduced to rubble. Reduced to rubble. And Thailand is treated as if it is just a blank canvas for these lazy white Western tourists to project their fantasies onto, for them to live their own life of short-term self-indulgence in, etc. Not even in the pursuit of a career, not even in the pursuit of research, not even in the pursuit of humanitarian interests, not even attempting to learn the language. Why is it Thailand? I think things are different in a subtle but profound way if instead of Thailand, this were happening in Jamaica. Right? Jamaica, a country so utterly defined by the history of colonialism and slavery in a way that's so obvious. Why is Jamaica populated by black people and not by the indigenous people? I mean, the indigenous people were driven, I believe, to the edge of extinction. I do not know if in Jamaica it was 100% genocide. I've studied that in a couple of the other islands. History of Jamaica, not in particular. Most of the Caribbean, the indigenous people were driven to the edge of extinction, of genocide. In some places, they're completely wiped out, right? The population of Jamaica through the repopulation of Jamaica through slavery, the history of European colonialism, it's staring you in the face every day. You're aware of it there. I mean, plenty of tourists still enjoy going to Jamaica, but I think the question is there. Why is it Thailand instead of Jamaica? Why is it Thailand instead of South Africa? Why is it Thailand instead of Egypt? Even we can ask, why is it Thailand instead of Malaysia? Because Malaysia is just a Muslim majority country. The beaches are just as beautiful. The mangoes are just as good. You know what I mean? It's not the climate here. Egypt also has beautiful beaches, by the way, right? Somehow people are managing to sleepwalk through social and political reality in Thailand. And I think that the confrontation with the legacy of colonial history, etc., would somehow be more visceral, would somehow be more difficult to ignore if we were even talking about Jamaica. And I'm not joking when I've suggested earlier that Jamaica, they have a meaningful connection to vegetarianism. The Rastafarian movement is a vegetarian movement. Actually, Jamaican culture in many ways connects to vegetarianism, not quite veganism, in a meaningful way. It could be that in the future, Jamaica instead of Thailand, becomes a major vacation destination for vegans, becomes a place where vegans organize their conferences, their parties, or what have you. But if so, let's have curiosity and concern and ambition and human decency to deal with the reality of what Jamaica really is. And it would mean so much to me if any of you people, Ted Carr, anyone living in Chiang Mai, had concern and curiosity and ambition and decency to face up to what Thailand really is, or even what Chiang Mai specifically really is. Okay? And yeah, I've joked about it a lot that my expectations are low, my standards are low. But yeah, there is, I think there is an onus on us to live up to that, to exceed that. Because we're supposedly this morally pure political movement who are looking around at all these meat eaters saying, why don't you live up to our standards? But the irony is we're making a complete fucking farce out of ourselves with this permanent vacation, self-indulgent, dead-ended, mentally and morally bankrupt bullshit of parading a life of short-term sensual self-indulgence in the midst of a military dictatorship, in the midst of a coup d'etat taking over the government, in the midst of a civil war in Southeast Asia. Hey guys, next year let's have Ratel 4. Let's have the vegan festival in Syria. Let's have it in Egypt. Let's have it in South Africa. Let's have it in Jamaica. Personally, Thailand means so much to me. It's been such a big part of my life. I can still speak Thai with a heavy Laotian accent. I would love it for Thailand to be the center of the future of this movement. It would be so convenient for me personally, right? But it's got to be the real Thailand. It can't be a fake Thailand. It can't be a fantasy of Thailand. It can't be a version of Thailand denuded of its whole real cultural history and political context to just be this blank canvas for, white Western fantasies to be painted onto, right? And frankly, if we're honest about it, in terms of the issue of colonialism, etc., I think that's exactly why it's Thailand. I think people don't want to deal with the guilt trip that they would have, even these idiots in South Africa or in Jamaica. It's only in Thailand that they can sleep and stay asleep to that extent about social and political reality outside of their window. I said a long time ago, guys, wrapping this up, that I wished that a video I made would be the last video I ever made about Durian Rider. And then after that, Durian Rider started this fight with me and ended up in court and all this stuff, these legal proceedings, litigation. I could say, I hope this is the last video I make about permanent vacation, but it's not how I really feel. I think I personally have made tremendous progress on this issue. I think that we collectively on YouTube, there's been such an evolution in the last 2 years. Things have come so far, so fast. And I have played a role in that. Even people who hate this channel really responded to and really, reshaped their engagement with these issues because of my critique of permanent vacation. And it also brought people out who, look, I'd say that actual phrase, permanent vacation, I basically introduced into this discourse. The same way a bunch of my little catchphrases like, digital demi-monde have caught on and become currency even among people who don't watch this channel, even among people who hate this channel, right? I don't hope this is the last time I discuss these issues. I hope that 1 year from now, we've made just as much progress as I know that we made in the last year. We made a ton of progress. And it's partly because of me. It's probably because of 1,000 other people. Not that many people. Maybe it's just 1,000 people. It's not a hollow boast for me to say we can do better. I've seen it. I've seen people respond to these problems being pointed out to them by trying to do better and by actually doing better. The beautiful thing about veganism being stuck in its current nascent stage of just getting started, of not yet being a real movement and so on, is that we get to ask these questions and come up with new answers before anyone is committed to a formally organized political movement. And that's a beautiful thing. But there was a time when I first started talking about these issues when people responded with absolute hostility to my asking these questions. And when they responded by accusing me of working for the CIA, they accused me of trying to destroy veganism from the inside, and they accused me of being anti-vegan because I dared to question the role of lifestyle activism, we've been talking about, in contrast to real political activism, in contrast to other forms of activism, in contrast to even running a restaurant, to all these other things, because I questioned the really negative outcomes for people of this message of drop out of school, as some people say, of just become a degenerate, just run away and join the circus and live for your own short-term self. There was a really strong voice of opposition a couple years ago saying, no, 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 the only way to promote veganism is to show our own happiness, is to show how happy and healthy we are. Just like Happy Healthy 96, is to make a great display of how happy and healthy we are, and it's going to attract people and so on. And today, across the board, people respond to these same criticisms by saying, well, you know what? That's a really good question. Maybe there's more than one answer. But across the board, I think you see people trying to come up with new and meaningful and working answers. Bad news is, look, guys, for some of these people, it's too late. You can go back and watch that video I did with Leah Pramstaller. So she's going to finish high school now. She had to go back to school. She's going to finish high school in her mid-20s. Some of these people who dropped out of university will never get the chance to go back to university. Some of these people, whether it's on camera or off camera, are going to end up mopping the floor at Starbucks or taking other really low-level jobs because they ran away to live this social media dream, and then sooner or later they had to wake up to the fucking social media nightmare. The temptation of that little bit of fame, that little bit of money, that I think that specific temptation is not one that any other social movement has really had to deal with before. Yes, I think if you were a Christian preacher in the 1960s, as part of the civil rights movement, there was money, there was fame, there was sex. A lot of those guys got drawn into it. You can read a lot of accounts at the time. Sure, some of those elements of human nature didn't change. But I think it is true that we are dealing with now, at this early stage of veganism, temptations that are so great, temptations that are out of all proportion to the vitality and viability and power and influence of the movement itself. You guys celebrate when our scandals get covered in the newspapers. You know, vegan scandals, like Freely breaks up with her boyfriend, or even when Durian Rider's threats get me. Okay. Do you want to actually think about the ratio of coverage of the scandals to the coverage of positive accomplishments we've got? And what do you think the influence is? What do you think the knock-on effect of that is for the people who are coming into the game now? I've been in the game just long enough to see people get brokenhearted and drop out. I got a real short message from Raw Access. I've had Raw Access on my channel before. You've seen him. He's a black guy. He's an African-American guy. You've seen him making fun of me. He pretends to be me, and he tries to imitate my voice and accent. It's pretty funny. But I said to him, why did you delete your channel? He gave me a very short answer. He said, I lost faith in the community. The vegan community. I said to him, man, I'm way past you. I'm way past you on that. When I started this channel, I'd lost faith in the community. My first message out the gate was, there is no community. Get over it. For me, that was step one. For him, it may be the final step. Maybe he'll reconsider and come back, right? On a human level, I think this stuff has a profoundly corrosive and demoralizing influence. And there are some people like me who will say, fine, makes me stronger. I'm still in it for life. I still see a future for veganism in this world. I still see this as such a meaningful and such an important message, even though I've been through this, blah, blah, blah. I think there's a silent majority. I think there's a much, much larger number of people who are responding to this and going off in another direction. There's just a huge number of people who are looking at the teenagers who drop out of high school, and they don't comment, and they don't complain, and they don't engage in this debate. They just go in another direction. So there's an opportunity cost here that we can't even measure. And invisibly, that's the single biggest negative impact from this game we're playing on social media right now. Do you think I can go a whole year without making another video on permanent vacation? Let's try to do 6 months. I hope we all make a lot of progress by then, guys. I hope we've all made a lot of progress the next time I got to approach these issues. Because like I said, I feel like we made a ton of progress since the last time I approached them. Hit me up.